So I want to thank people that joined on YouTube. I'm going to try to keep these a little bit shorter because I'm going to do them more extensively, and I'm going to give you some things to think about. I'm Deborah Westbrook. Why do I always forget mentioning that? I just assume people on Facebook know, so I'm always doing this from Facebook. Today we're going to talk about patterns. We're going to talk about holograms. We're going to talk about energy, and I'm going to make it personal because the reason this message is done, the reason the synchronicities message was done a while back is because I'm walking this out. And it isn't just some theory to me. I am seeing this. And I think a lot of us, if you're watching this, you know that you are the message. You know that as you live life in the fullest, you know that you're going to be walking through as you're ascending, as you're increasing in light, as you're evolving into maturity, as you're learning. This change and transition that is in our life becomes a message to help others that maybe are not there, that are going through hard times. So you know what? We all really do need each other. We need each other to grow, to evolve. We need each other in so many aspects. And that's just the way that I'm seeing life, that if I cannot give you something that can help you in your humanity, then I'm just talking to talk. And I don't want to do that anymore. So let's get started. So I'm going to show you how this started for me. And when I talk about patterns, I decided that for 2023, you're going to see within this message that I'm going to start speaking creatively with a depth of understanding that will help me and others that are drawn to my sound evolve through the integration of science and spirituality at a greater depth than just we've been doing. There are a lot of people are understanding oneness, they're understanding entanglement. Let's go a little deeper into these things and let's see how they can help us respond to the whispers, the energy whispers, the subtle movements that are in what I'm going to be called the imaginal realm, not a place of imagination, but this place, the imaginal realm of where we enter. It's like the tidal zone that we are losing ourselves and finding ourselves at the same time. So we're going to, I believe my focus is that I'm not looking to move in the duality of divinity and humanity. I'm acknowledging that I'm fully divine and fully human right now. And the human side of it is living in this 3D realm, which I never negate. That is the beauty of life. I will never negate that. But yet it is this moving in this divinity of who I am. And that is not like a duality of expecting miracles or things we used to believe in that many of us that we do not believe in anymore. There is a realm of living in my divinity. What does that mean? How do I even do that? Well, we're going to start processing that because I'm processing this. And I want to talk about patterns. How this started was very simple. I woke up one morning and I started to think about nature, and I started to think about the ease of nature and how nature never struggles, never fights against what it's called to do. At this time on the California coast, the whales are migrating. If you go just a short distance offshore, sometimes you can even see them from the shore. They're migrating from north to south. In the north, they reproduce, and in the south, they give birth. And then they start the movement. You're not going to tell a whale not to do that. It is inherent within their DNA, within the field, to move according to the flow of what they've been created for, and they do it with ease. The only time any disruption is caused in the animal kingdom, it is because man interjects the confusion or the greed. Animals in and of themselves will flow in a rhythm and a pattern that is inherent in our DNA. And that is why, no matter how you look at scripture, that is something to say about why Jesus said, consider the lilies of the field and consider the birds of the air. They don't strive, they don't try to push, they don't try to hustle. And I think it would be wise for us to learn how to find our pattern that is already encoded within our DNA. We're not looking to gain anything. It's already within us. We're looking to expand and to evolve in what is already there. And there is a way to respond to the subtle whispers that come through observation of the patterns. You will never observe the patterns in your life until you take time to be still. Because in taking time to be still, it is there that you know yourself, you know God, you know the reason of your creation, you know your incarnation, and it is a subtle whisper that never shouts. It rises from within you, and then you start to move in that pattern, which brings joy and peace and rest. It's very simple. It's not complex. We make it complex. We have been taught to believe that everyone can hear these subtle whispers better than ourselves. We are looking to get healed, and we're still seeing through the realm and through the lens of trauma or judgment, and that will cloud our perception. But it is all available to us right now. It is available to us to live a life that is full, and to live a life that is able to co-create in God, to live a life that gets past the trauma, past the deconstruction, and past the victimhood. And I think that some people just don't want to do that because they draw a distinct identity from all that. And they draw an audience from all that, that in order to move into that place where there is true creativity and there is an explosion, it's the unknown. You're surrendering to that which has not happened before in your life. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So many people go from birth to death, living life according to a timeline. They live, and I've done it, I'm sure many of you have done it. They live life according to a timeline and a narrative that is dictated to them by everybody but them. It is dictated to them by their need for perfection, by their need to fulfill an inner dream of the house, 2 kids, making so much money. And all those things project out of you then, and it circles you and encompasses you, and you get stuck in that timeline. But I believe people are moving out of this. I believe a young generation, when I was up at Thanksgiving with my kids, they have a totally different view of what they want from life. The hustle is gone in many of their lives. They want peace. They want authenticity, whether that's on a farm or in a city. They don't want the constant hustle and the push. I think that's pretty good, because the only way they can accomplish that sense of joy and prosperity and peace is in their own authenticity. It is a different generation rising up, and they're not going to play according to the rules of the timeline that we've established. We need to let them go. So when you move according to a timeline, you're moving according to time. Now, I understand that everybody's out there saying time is an illusion, et cetera, et cetera. That is a very immature way to view quantum, because even though time is illusory, or it is an illusion, yes, it is an illusion, nonetheless, you face it in your incarnation. It's a matter of what you're going to do with that reality of the time-space continuum. What are you going to do being in the world, but not of the world? You're not going to escape it and ascend to a higher place and leave this all behind. Not if you're any kind of human. You will go through suffering. You will go through struggle. And quantum teaches us that as we understand our oneness, our divinity, and our humanity, we will go through all that and be the better for all that. I truly believe that, because if you look in your life and I look at mine, I've been to hell and back, but I'm still standing, which, by the way, on Thanksgiving, we watched the Disney Channel. Elton John had his final performance from LA. It was so good, all his songs. And one of his songs is I'm Still Standing. If you've ever seen anything about his life, the guy's been through a lot. Don't you feel like you're still standing, but you're standing? You're not getting out of here unless you choose to get out of here. So time is beautiful if you see it in the right way. And if you see it as nature sees it, and you move in an unforced rhythm of grace, you will see time being used to beautify your life. And you will not be restricted by the outside influences that are always trying to inherently interject fear into time. You're getting older, you're not doing this, you haven't accomplished this. That's all BS. When you release the grip of time, you actually learn how to move through time with an unforced rhythm of grace by learning quantum principles. You learn the importance of being in your incarnate self in your 3D reality. So people live their whole lives often in established patterns that culture, family, friends choose for them. I'm a Gemini. I don't live in established patterns. It's part of my DNA. And I'm not kidding you. I thrive on adventure. I thrive on curiosity, and I thrive on change. That is inherent in my DNA. So I never live in established patterns. I am always looking for the new. But now that I've matured in that, I'm not hustling and moving out before it's time. So even though there is a curiosity in me in this incarnation, I always hold back and I play the observer for a while to see where that settled peace comes in from inside of me, in which direction I move. So let me read to you these 3 quotes, because this is where many of us are right now. I couldn't have said it better. The first one is by a writer that I follow, and I took a writing course from Jeff Goins, and he said, "The beginning of any honest endeavor is often marked by the inability to talk about it. Whether it's a poem or a cure for cancer or a new relationship, if you can speak eloquently about it at its inception, you probably aren't going deep enough." For the longest time, I have felt within me that I was standing in this place of nothingness, where there was no passion, there was no ability to see where I was going. It wasn't a dark place. It was not the dark night of the soul. If it had been, it would have been a little easier to understand. It was a place where I had to be very content with not knowing. I had to settle into the not knowing. And anytime that rise would come up in me, that I would get frustrated, it came from peripheral vision of trying to see what other people was doing, or comparison, or why am I still standing here? But that place gave me the inability to really explain what I was going through. But I have a better ability now to explain it to you, because I believe many people are in that place, and it is a beautiful place to be. You can do anything you want. You want to watch TV all day? Watch TV all day. You want to drink a glass of wine at 10 in the morning? Do it. You don't have to hustle to bring on the path of light that your divinity is going to show you in how to move in your humanity. It is truly, yeah, Lisa, I think we're both going through the same thing. So here's the deal then. So then I read this by Lee Harris. Now, this is really good. He says, over the next year or two, visionary activism, let's call that a creative life. A creative life is going to get really strong. This creative explosion in you. And I'm not talking about art. It could be. It could be art. It could be sculpting. It could be writing. But it also is the creative explosion in this desire to be who you are wanting to be in this time, in this incarnation. And that comes from the depth of your being. So he said, this is going to get strong, this desire to be who I am. It's a very strong desire. And what's good about it, he says, is that it means your creativity or activism is going to be more effective and authentic. Why is that? I really don't want to be anybody else. I think it was Lisa that posted something. You posted something today on your Facebook page that was really good. It was like, I don't want to be strong and focus on the strength and the hustle anymore. I want peace, I want rest, and I want to flow in my divinity right now, in my humanity. And that comes in a rhythm of grace. So rather than being responsive or reactionary to that which you need to fight in order to bring a different solution, you're going to have some downloads about different ways to do things, different ways to be creative, to be an activist, different energetic approaches, and different strategic approaches. And that's really important, because you can't fight fire with fire. You need to do something different. And that's been in me. That's why I'm going to do this in 2 parts. I cannot tell you how free I feel, because I'm just going to talk. It was like even the hustle is gone, and having to have notes, and this intuitive side of me that's been shut down because I've walked through hell for 4 years is rising back up, but not because I'm trying to be it. It's because it is in my DNA since I was a child. That's who I am. So it's rising up to just know that there's this thing happening in me. It's not a tension. It's not a frustration, though. That frustration, that was a year ago. I am not frustrated. I am observing to know that, oh my God, I don't want to step out in that. I don't want to use the patterns of the past to dictate where I'm going in the future. I want to stand in awe of me. I want to look at what I'm doing and go, I never knew I could do that. So let me tell you something else. Am I okay with just rambling a little right now? I started watching all the Project Runway and the Project Runway All-Stars, and I'm wondering why I'm watching them. And because I did design for 4 years, I was in design school, and I still to this day, I look at how things are made. I take them apart in my head, and I'm wondering, why am I watching these again? Because these are from years ago. I forgot who won. And I'm seeing something that there's a reason I'm watching those again. And let me share how patterns can be discerned in very subtle ways. And therefore, it takes a sensitivity in the spirit. It takes a sensitivity in stillness. I could have looked at those Project Runways and thought, oh, I've seen these. What am I doing? No, I started noticing things. I noticed that it wasn't always the designers that had it going on that were so perfect in their approach to the design. They were methodical, they were structured. It was the designers that were taking risks that the other designers looked at and said, you know, this could change this, make this different, but we love that you're taking a risk, because when you take a risk, it's coming from a place of authenticity. And I believe that is exactly where I am. I don't want to be so structured as to put out something that everyone's going to applaud and say, yeah, you got it going on. It's really good. It was because they've heard it before. I want to, like you, go on the scene and let people say, well, they'll know right away if they're going to follow you or not, because you're moving in your authenticity in a certain energetic response. And I want to risk now. And risk has meant that I've had to step back, and I've had to observe, and I've had to look, and I've had to let everybody keep going on, knowing that I had to find this message in me that was going to develop and catapult me into this next place. And I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than I was. So Buckminster Fuller says, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. When you change a pattern, I've lost friends. I've changed the location where I live, which means the energy has changed. I've changed my mindset. The way everything in my life has changed. When I moved from the Bay Area to Monterey County, it's not the same energy. I would get up in the middle of the night and I would feel lost. And I'm just giving you an example that you could feel a little lost, and it would be easy to return home, because I go to the Bay Area like maybe every month. I go back in, and I went back in, and I know the energy of the San Francisco Bay Area. I know energies over nations, sometimes more than people. I knew the energy of Finland. I knew the energy of Kenya. So when I go back to the Bay Area, I get it. I get the creativity that's there and everything that's going on. And I was driving around. I had to run some errands, and I just felt so comfortable. And I just thought, I am not supposed to be here anymore. So it's going to take knowing the energy of where I'm going, which means I can't make assumptions that I think I know. So I would get up in the middle of the night and I would say, and I know you've got to look at this different. I'm just giving you an example. I would get up in the middle of the night and go, man, I do not understand the energy of Monterey County. It is so different, folks. You know, you got Pebble Beach, you got Carmel, which is the rich of the rich. You know, Brad Pitt just bought a home in Carmel for $40 million. And then you got Santa Cruz, I'm in between two, where everything new age and hippie and Reiki healers and everything started. And so you've got so many different patterns. You've got the ocean, you've got the beauty. And I decided, well, this is where I am. Therefore, where I am is going to contribute and enhance at this point in my 3D life, enhance the energy expansion in me. I need to be quiet, and I need to observe, and I need to see where this is going to take me. And I believe that many of you are in the same place. So now let's talk about patterns. Where in time in the fullness of time. It's no accident if we chose to come here, if you believe that, or however you believe, you are in time at a certain moment in time, in a certain moment within the collective consciousness, however you view it. There is radical change taking place. It is unlike any other time. And I am in time for such a time as this. I do not denounce it. I do not try to spiritually bypass things by always talking about ascending and moving past. No, I'm gonna, I don't want to use that word. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna enjoy it. And I am going to see what it is for me that time has for me. So quantum overflow, learning quantum concepts, it flows out of our spirituality from the field through our incarnation. Let me give you an example. Let me find it right here. When physicists, when they learned about quantum concepts, oneness, entanglement, holograms, all that, and they're still learning, they realized that there had to be an outflow of meeting the needs of humanity through learning the quantum realities. So MRIs were developed, atomic clocks that handle your GPS on your phones, lasers, solar clocks. There's a lot of things that have manifested in the 3D realm because of the physicists exploring what was so outlandishly unknowable when they began to study quantum. But the overflow of studying quantum produced something for the benefit of humanity. I do not pontificate about all these cool quantum concepts just to throw the word quantum around. Run, don't walk away from somebody who's throwing that word around like as if they've got it down and they're going to try to fit their belief. They're going to try to fit quantum into their belief system. You can't do that. So these physicists learned that quantum was so outrageously big and expansive that what they were developing, which we'll see more in the coming days, was the outflow of what was occurring as they learned, and they just began asking questions and moving out. That's no different than you and me. I am so into science and spirituality that I cannot see my spirituality anymore unless it's entangled with science, because the beauty of science is in nature. And it's in the atmosphere, it's in astronomy, it's in sacred geometry, which I'm going to talk about in the coming days. It's in holographic principles, which I'm going to talk about in the coming days. So quantum flowing out of me is not to do anything other than to walk in a beauty realm in my 3D incarnation, knowing that there is this incredible divine mind that has created all of this. I am not of the belief system that I am God. Now I am in God and I move as God, and everything that is in God is moving effortlessly through me, but I don't go so far as to think I'm the divine mind. And that is not even looking at it as duality. Even Max Planck, the founder of quantum physics, says beyond all of this intricate, interwoven reality of the universe, there is a divine mind. And that is exactly what I feel. I am not so arrogant as to think that but yet I'm also not religious to think that I am the only, that my way is the only way. I have seen Jesus in a different realm. I have viewed God in a different realm, and it has all drawn me closer to the reality of what Jesus was really trying to show us, which we'll also talk about in the coming days. So let's talk about patterns. What does pattern mean? I'm going to go for about maybe 15 more minutes, and then I'm going to cut it and do part 2 next week. A pattern is a regular or intelligible form to form an expression. So when you have a pattern, it is something that flows from the expression of who you are. I'll tell you one of my patterns, and it was not a good pattern. When I was in leadership and in the church, I was always willing to give, thinking that surely I was going to give back. So I went beyond without any boundaries, constantly giving, constantly spreading out. And then when I wasn't given back to, I got very angry and I lived in anger. Whose fault was that? If I can say fault, it's mine. I had no business going past a boundary that of healing and wholeness that I should have known. So I've learned that right now I set very distinct boundaries upon my life, what I listen to, who I share things with, where I go, what I do. That's not elitism, that's wisdom. And I have no problem saying no anymore. I have no problem not getting involved. My life has become so much more healthy and whole because of the beauty of boundaries that are leading me into a patterned expression of my life. So all of us have patterns that need healing. You can seek healing through I have a friend that just went to a Reiki healer. I watched, it was incredible. You can go to a therapist, you can pray, you can do centering prayer, you can do meditate. There are so many ways now to get you out of victimhood and out of trauma into healing. Right now, I'm doing a 7-week course by Dr. Sue Morter on quantum healing and energy codes. And she's basically saying, this is how you clear that trauma. This is how from your lower chakra all the way up, when you ground and how that energy goes up, that's no different than what Jesus did on the Mount of Transfiguration. He was clear. We are called to be clear. And that means that any blockages in us have the ability to go through distinct exercises. And it's just real interesting what I'm learning. Why am I learning all this? Because I truly believe that the pattern of my humanity is going to be flowing also in my divinity. I will walk this earth fully human and fully divine. And that will dictate the path by which I flow and the energy flowing out of me. It will dictate in a beautiful way my creative expression. Remember Paul in the book of, was it Corinthians, or I think it was Corinthians, where he said, I don't go into another man's field. I don't go into anyone else's field. I don't go past the place where they are finding themselves, but together in unity, we are flowing as one. I know my niche, I'm finding that out. And because I'm finding it out, it is bringing so much joy and gladness in my life that there is no jealousy and there is no competition. Now, patterns are discovered through observation. As I said, there's an effortless flow in nature, and it's only when man interferes in the balance that nature responds with upset. Climate problems, extinction of animals, any type of thing that may be going on that draws your attention. When man interferes with the flow of that through greed, any means of destroying the environment unnecessarily without having a concern for it, that we're living in this earth. And I was a biology, science, math major. It used to drive me crazy that Christians took such little concern for the earth that they're supposed to be moving in and living in. So I'm not talking about fanaticism. I'm talking about when patterns are destroyed because man interjects so many things. And that is true in our case. When man or culture dictates to us the pattern by which we're supposed to flow, it always disrupts our movement. We get guilt, we get regret, we get anger. Many things occur to us in our subconscious, and then that is how we live our life. So let me talk a little bit quantum before I get deeper next week. Thank you for flowing with me in this today, because I'm just giving a broad picture of it. So there are blueprints in the quantum field. I've preached this for several years. It's true, it's reality. It isn't enough just to say it. People need to know if there is a blueprint in the quantum field. Of course there is, because the field is God, the field is source, the field is universe. And God himself said, before I formed you, I knew you before the creation of the earth. So as you come here within matter, in a higher density of energy, there is a desire to remember. And you remember by accessing the divinity and what is already inherent in your DNA, through your thoughts, through your heart coherence. You can speak forever on that. I'm just throwing that out right now. If you want to take that on a path where you learn more about it, you need to go that way. So in the field, there are blueprints that have been stored for you. There is information stored in the quantum field that never disappears. That's been proven. In that 0-point energy field, that contains the information, and that is where you came from and where you are going back to. There is no other way to look at it. It is ridiculous. Your matter, when you either you're going to be taken out of here and automatically translocate, or whatever, or you're going to ascend so high that you're gone, or you're going to pass on and transition, and this outer shell will go, but you do not disappear. You will never disappear, and you will never die. So informational storage is inherent in your DNA embodiment, known before you were incarnate. It can never be erased, and it only needs to be remembered. So basically, we have forgotten. And not only did we forget, but we've been pummeled with all kinds of people telling us what to believe, who we are, to the point where, like I've said this before, creativity is pretty much gone from a child after the age of 7 or 8, because it's purged out of them by the very way in which the world operates. But hopefully, I believe that it's coming back, and it's going to take center stage again. We need an internal revolution. We don't need an external revolution. We need an internal revolution of a total change of mind and change of heart, and a boldness and a courage that is accompanied by a humility and a grace. There's nothing attractive about mean people. There's nothing attractive about hate. There's nothing attractive about narcissism. Beauty is not inherent in someone that is greedy or angry. Beauty flows through people that are moving in their authenticity. And to move in their authenticity, you have to have, yes, Brad, an internal revolution. And that starts with what you believe. And it really is simple. God is good. The energy of the universe is love. There is no dualism in that. Love is a powerful, powerful energy that makes one beautiful, body, soul, and spirit. There's a beauty in love, and a beauty in energy, and a beauty in finding your pattern. So how I found, and I am finding my pattern, is I had to take time to think back on what was rising up within me that were subtle whispers. For example, I kept thinking about this picture I kept getting, that when I was a little girl growing up in Chicago, it would be late at night, and my mom and dad would be in the room sitting watching TV, and I would say, I'm going to go get my boots, my coat, my scarf, and I'm going to go out in the snow in the backyard. And we had a really cool backyard with 3 huge trees that I used to climb. And I would get out there, and I would just breathe in the silence. And I would look at the sky, and I knew that I knew certain things about my life. I knew that I wanted to travel. I knew that I didn't want to settle. I knew that I wanted to explore. I wanted to be an adventurer. I wanted to have things keep coming before my eyes that just birthed me into an awe and wonder of God. I would live my life constantly saying to my mother, I'm so bored, I'm so bored. But now that's being used to its advantage. So I had to learn the subtle whispers of who am I? And God within me would subtly, it was like this beautiful conversation. It was never on my terms. It was never like, how do I do this? No, that would defeat the purpose of an unforced rhythm of grace. Are you with me? It had to be that subtle whisper where it was like, oh yeah, remember this. Oh yeah, remember that. And those subtle whispers, I'm reading a book right now by a mystic, actually a liturgical mystic, I believe, from the Episcopal Church, called the imaginal realm. Those subtle whispers come from the imaginal realm. Actually, it's the realm of entering into the kingdom. And I had to, by observation and by being still, I would take my journal, and you could say I just responded to the Spirit. Getting up at 3, not understanding why, I would take my journal, and I never disregarded anything I was hearing. Because you see, a pattern coalesces or comes together when you learn to connect the dots. So you have to look underneath the flow of what's going on. You never learn about a situation by just looking at what's happening on the surface. That's not it. You cannot look at your life. You cannot look at my life and know what I've been through by just looking on the surface of who you think I am. There is something going on deep within us. So this realm is what we're learning to connect with, and I'm going to speak on it in the coming days. I'll give you a little hint. It says, it's an author called Cynthia Bourgeault. She has incredible books on Aramaic Jesus and the wisdom Jesus, and it's phenomenal. It's like I've come full circle. It's incredible what is going on within me, that I'm not rejecting these things. So to our modern Western ears, the word imaginal may indeed seem to suggest a private, subjective inner landscape, make-believe, or fanciful by nature. But while it is associated with visions and dreams and prophecies, in metaphysics, the imaginal realm is objectively real. There is a location, she says, called the imaginal realm, and it is superior to just the realm of mere possibility. I'm just beginning to study this. It designates a sphere that is not less real than more real than our objective reality, and whose generative energy changes the course of events in the world. Small though it may appear to be, it is mighty, as those who try to swim against it will readily attest. What is she saying? She's saying that there is a realm of possibility, the quantum field. There is a realm of possibility that is accessed by a holy curiosity. That is why Jesus was clear when he said, to enter the kingdom, you come in as a child, not with a doctorate, understanding logical, linear reasoning. You can get all that. But the reality is that even quantum physicists, when it got down to the point of actually looking at what they were seeing, they just began asking a whole lot of questions. A whole lot of questions advance them. And what does a child like to do? A child likes nothing more than to ask a lot of questions. So personally, this imaginal realm, I'll teach it more in the days ahead. Like I said, I so wanted to put this in some kind of order, but I couldn't. It's like you're in my process right now. So you just take one thing and run with it, because I'm just in my process. So I want to end with this, and this is all of what I'm going to be speaking on in 2023. We're going to teach some courses in it. Holograms. Let me end. What does this all have to do with holograms? Okay. Help me make this simple. Do you remember in Star Wars, way back in the day, where Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker was looking at Princess Leia, and she was a hologram, and she was projected from something to the point where he was just looking at Princess Leia. He could walk around her. You can even put your hand through it, but it's an illusion, but it flows from a place of energy. Many people will disagree with this. Many people will believe in this. I tend to believe it sounds really good. Behind this manifestation of Deborah, this dense matter of Deborah, could be called a hologram. It isn't an illusion. I am here. I am now. I am living my life in an incarnation that is powerful in time, but I am not this. I am the energy from which I was birthed. And a hologram is a projection of the energy that births it. So the trick in finding out what you want to do, who you want to be, the pattern, does not come in looking at the external illusion in which we live. You don't look at the patterns of another person. You don't look at the patterns of what people expect you to be. You don't look at your education. You don't look at your religion. You look back from which you were birthed from, which is your energy signature. And you will go back into that energy. And the only way you can understand that is not by one day. Okay, let me see. How do I say this? I want to say the word awaken, but you awaken to what is already in you. It's not outside of you. So in this imaginal realm of substance, this objective reality, this 0 point field of the quantum realm, there is a projection of your energy that has come into the earth to do yourself the best you can possibly do to find the pattern. You start listening to the subtle whispers that will help you remember of why you're here in the first place. I hope this is making sense. Why are you here? That's not a question that's so deep and profound, you can never figure it out. The subtle whispers are flowing from the energy that is inherently in me, but there are blockages in my energy. And that's why I have had to go through healing and go through restoration and not be a victim. And that is why I've had to humbly walk in asking forgiveness, in being forgiving, in being loving, and being caring, and being compassionate, not being narcissistic or greedy or angry. I've had to let it all go to the point of my own nothingness. And that's where I am right now. That's how I started this message. But this nothingness is not nothing. This nothingness that I stand in right now is energy that is getting ready to coalesce and form a hurricane-like wind in me that is going to flow through me into time, that I will walk in the authenticity of what I am created to be and to do. Because I just don't exist here to do nothing. I'm not waiting to get out of here. So how do I end this? Next week, we'll talk about Jesus being the prototype, because I have so many people on my Facebook feed right now that think they're just not going to acknowledge Jesus for anything. You know, they've left religion, and so they've left Jesus and everything. I can't do that. I've come full circle. It isn't leaving or gaining anything. It's how he wanted to show us to be. The reality of the depth of the beauty of which he showed us in scripture, like in such glorious ways. So, okay, so let me end with this. I said all of that, and we'll explain it over 2023. I will do another one next week, probably be a little bit repetitive, because I find as a teacher in which I was, repetition is good, settles in you. So where am I right now? Let me recap this. Each day I wake up, and if I listen to my ego will say, "What are you doing?" Because I'm not doing much. Trust me, I'm not doing much. I'm not working it up. I'm not doing much. And the ego, it doesn't like that. You know, can you see this person and this person? It directs your peripheral vision out, and you have to center back in. So each day I wake up in this nothingness that is really something, but it's me all over in this energy. And I'm looking and I'm trying to build a form from an energy that I don't understand the pattern yet. And it would be not wise of me to start building myself up in an energy of assumption or presumption, or I'm going to rely on something I knew back then. Well, just build a school, Deborah, or start preaching and teach and have your notes. And I'm not going back. Somehow I'm going to integrate creativity and science and spirituality to flow as me. So I stand in this nothingness and I look around and I submit to the day. And whatever the day brings to me right now, I connect the dots of what came before it over the past month. And pretty soon a picture is forming that I am unable to give a name to. Can't name it yet. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what 2023 is going to bring. I don't know how the expression of who I am, but I see all these beautiful synchronicities rising up. And that's first internally bringing me great joy and great peace and great abundance. And suddenly I will know at some point I will begin to move out very slowly in the rhythm of grace with which I have been shown to move, that is inherent in our DNA in this 3D realm. I really hope you like this. Share it. I'll read all your comments because I see there's really good comments. Thank you for joining. And I'll do another one next Tuesday. and I'll go a little bit deeper. Then I'm taking a 3-week week off, and then I'm going to figure out what 2023 is calling me to create. Love you guys. I'm feeling really good. Thank you for listening, and I will be back next week. Love you.